and he pulled me into the car, put a gun to my head, and proceeded to let me know I wasn't going to be leaving him, and that this is what we about to do. That's this. I remember, this is what we about to do. And so that night I committed my first armed robbery. And we did, but by we, I mean me, because he was driving, and because the way it was laid down, I'm on parole, and I know you don't want me to go back to prison, and nobody's ever known you. I've never even gotten a moving violation ticket in my life. So, I wasn't on anybody's radar at all. I did everything, very low key. And so it just sounded like a good idea at the time for me to be going in with this gun, unmasked,
Right.
That's it.
That's crazy. And then did you like continue robbing people, or was that the first and only robbery and then it was over?
Yeah.
No.
No. It's funny, because anytime I'm telling my story, one thing I'm always real cognizant of is I never want to glamorize or glorify that life.
Oh no.
But it's impactful because people look at me today and they're like, oh, it's the greatest compliment. I know you get it as well. It's like, gosh, I just don't see that prison time on you, or I don't see that in you. And that's great. But in order for me to be able to get people to connect to my lived experience, I sometimes have to get down and dirty with it and share that. So yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I did my first robbery, and then I did 6 more after that. And so, and just the way that, I was out there doing it, just, who stands in the line at Albertsons with everybody buying stuff, for the Charger game that go on, and just waits her turn while she's waiting in line with kids and families behind me, and these dudes in front of me buying beer, and getting ready for the Charger game. And I'm just right there with the 357 Magnum in my waistband, ready to rock everybody's world, and just thought that was just great. Like, this is me, like, look at me. This is me. This is what the world's done. You created this monster, and here you have it. You're welcome.
And at this time, you said you was at what, 36 at this time?
Yeah, I was 36 years. Wow. Yeah. And that's something to be proud of. You go to prison for the first time, you get, but that's the thing, is like, we're all susceptible.
Yes, definitely.
Nobody's exempt for,
Nope.
if you don't think that it's coming for you, then you're lying to yourself. Yep. Then you're the one I'm worried about. You're the one I want to be listening to this podcast. If you're not ready, you need to get ready, because life happens at a moment's notice.
Oh yeah.
And I don't want anybody to go down this. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
I hear that a lot. A lot of people say that I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. And if you really think about that, that's some real shit, because I know that going through prison for 10 years, a whole decade, really messed me up, man. I mean, just seeing everything in there and just being away from my family, my child as she grew up. Exactly. And just being away from everyone, it was really, really heartbreaking. It was rough. It wasn't fun. There was nothing good about it, and especially when I had a life sentence, thinking I'm never coming home.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I can't believe that. That's crazy. I was hoping that you were going to tell me that it was the first robbery and you were done, but yeah, you went through a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that, sis.
Yeah, no worries.
So eventually you get caught for this crime spree, and
right.
So what county are you in at this
time?
San
Diego County. I didn't do anything out of okay. Yeah, I went down in San Diego County, hated everything about the way I was getting dealt with. So and also in my mind, it was kind of like I could care less, because I would never, ever, ever have done that in my home backyard, Too much love, too much history behind that. But in San Diego, I gave no F's in San Diego for San Diego. So after the 7 robberies, on the last day of my freedom, which is November 8th, 2009, we had an intention of leaving the county because it was hot. The cops were looking for us, and we were on the news and all kind of stuff, oh, I'm sorry, I was on the news. And so people were looking for us, and because, like, again, I'm not on any radar for any, police prior convictions or history. It was just like, who is this mystery person running around San Diego doing this? And so, it's so funny because from the first robbery to the second robbery, the first one I went in menace to society, boys in the hood, all because that's all I knew, right? And my heart broke. The guy was like crying and pleading for his life, and I was just so traumatized by that I was doing that every subsequent robbery after that, I made sure to be super nice, to the point when I got my discovery for one of the guys that I had robbed, he went on record saying, oddly enough, she was really nice. And I remembered that guy because I was like, oh, everything's going good. You're doing great. All the while I have this Glock in my hand. You're doing a great job. Thank you. Can I have some cigarettes? And do you think you could like punch that button one more time and make more $20 drop out? Because I know you can do it. And so, you know what I'm saying? And then I took his wallet from him and his phone, and I was like, oh, by the way, I'm not stealing this. I'm just going to throw it on the roof, on the way out the door. And I don't know. It's just that distorted, twisted thinking in my mind, and, trying to make peace within myself and what I was doing,
You were a good person inside no matter what. That's what it was. And, you weren't supposed to be out here doing this. Oh, man.
It was what it was.
Yeah.
So he decides to do one last lick. We're trying to skip town. So he's like, we're about to jump on the freeway, and he sees a Circle K in Chula Vista. And it's a busy, and it's like morning rush hour traffic. And he's like, no, hold up, we're going to pull over. And this time he does the robbery. And so he's like, just jump in the seat, keep the car running. And we were already being tailed from the hotel room. I just didn't know it. So we just made it easy for them by stopping at the Circle K. So he does the robbery, comes out and sits in the car, and we're surrounded by cops from every area in San Diego, all around us. And the jig is up, boy. I'm out of there.
Wow.
It was like a movie. It was like a movie.
I bet. Did they chase you guys for a while?
No, we were not a moving target. We were planted. We were right there. They swooped in, and swooped in guns blazing, boy. And they're all around us screaming orders and directives, and so I'm just like looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, what's up? And he has this look, this like far away look that was scary to me. I knew that look very well, and it kind of made me shudder. And so I basically like looked at him, and I told him, I'm going to go now. And he looks at me, and he's like, he has this again faraway look in his eye, and he finally just says, okay, like he almost like he gave me permission, and so because for some reason I didn't feel like I wanted to turn my back on him, in that moment. And I don't mean like turn my back on him in like the heartfelt sense. I mean literally, And so he says, okay, and I pop the door open, and I follow the directives of the law enforcement, and I get out and do the dance, on the ground, cross my ankles, hands on my head, and all of that. And when they put the handcuffs on me, that was like the most sobering moment I'd had in 6 years. I saw everything. I knew everything in that moment, and it was just, there's, how there's very few moments in your life you look back and you can see so clearly. That will always forever be a very clear moment in my history, in my life. When that whole, when I was just sober and clear-headed, so much to where I saw everything around me,
Yeah, it's that moment where you kind of just, I don't know how to explain. It's like you're almost happy that you got, it's over, you know, it's I'm done. It's over. You know, it's like this deep breath. Yeah, and
Right.
everything's clear now. Yeah, I know
Well
exactly what
said.
you mean.
Yeah, exactly. Because
And
it was
yeah,
exactly that. My
yes.
pain had ended because prior to that, I promise you, I had suicidal tendencies, but too chicken to do it myself. You know, I put myself in dangerous situations in going under to the border and having federales busting doors down and just praying, is this the day that everything stops for me? Because I really hope so. And so, and death never found me.
Mm,
I never, I, I came out of every situation um alive and intact, and I was just like, really, I got to keep going on. And so in that moment I just felt like, I had been given like this like moment to just take it in and just breathe for once, like you said, and know
yeah,
that my pain has finally ended, you know
yeah,
but this whole nother journey has begun.
exactly. I just want to take you a small step back with what you said about the guy you were with, your co-defendant. Did you feel at that moment that he might do something dangerous towards you or the officers? Is that what you kind of felt about turning your back on him?
You know what? 3 months into our county time, so I get this letter from him because, of course, we're like gonna ride this out together. We're gonna go to the courts. We're gonna serve him. We're gonna do this no matter what it is together. So, of course, Bonnie and Clyde, we're just doing this. And we're going into the county jail. Pretty much infamous right at the point because everyone's heard about us already in the streets from the news. And so he's writing me letters. We're writing daily on a daily, and I get a letter from him, and it like stopped me in my tracks. And it was basically a confession of that day. And so he basically was telling me, I have to tell you something, and it's one of the hardest things to confess to you. He was like, I know that you felt something in that car when before you stepped out. And he says, um, I don't know what it was going on in me, but I had every intention of reaching under the seat, grabbing the gun, ending you, killing you, and then killing myself. And he
Mm,
says, in that moment when I looked at you and I saw your face, he said something in him just, like broke that trance that he was in, that faraway look that I kept seeing in his eyes that like made me, feel fear. I
mm,
felt fearful in that moment. And I remembered how that made me shudder inside. And because I felt it, I not wanting to turn my back on him, I felt him maybe possibly, blowing my head off, without being too graphic. It's just and my suspicions were right, my instincts were right.
instincts.
And when he said that, again, you look back and you say, wow, like I actually made it out of there with my life again, not even really, fully 100% realizing it. And and so he again apologized like for that, and it was apologizing for everything, and acknowledging that my life didn't have to go this way, that this was already his life when he met me.
Mm,
um but
wow.
so yeah, so most definitely that was an eye-opening moment for me to realize again that for some reason God was keeping me here and was always looking out for me, and even when I couldn't see it. And that was so true. He doesn't leave us, he doesn't forsake us, even in the midst of our mess, even at our worst, even when I made my bed in hell, he was there. And that was hell on earth for me and
Yeah.
anybody else around me. Woe unto anybody who would be in my way or in my path. And yeah.
Wow. That is crazy. So after that, of course, you got to go through the whole court system and things like that. So, this is your first time dealing with court and attorneys, public pretenders, things like that. Was your family back in your life now? Were they there to support? Were they around at this time?
No, my family was very heartbroken. They were already separating themselves from me
Mhm.
and practicing that tough love with me when it came to, and also protecting themselves from me as well, when I started going down that path of addiction. So they were already estranged from me from back then. So I didn't have any expectation on them once I got busted. I had zero. The only expectation that I was having on my family, my children, and those who knew me and were close to me was just to accept that I understood what I was doing and what I did to them. Just wanting to make amends. That was like, I was so bent on that. Like I was the sorriest person in sorry land, and just sending letters out and writing, and wanting to have that validated and have them understand that this was no reflection on my upbringing or anything. I just didn't want my parents to feel like this was their fault or
Mhm.
anything like that. I just wanted them to know how sorry I am and understanding what I've done to hurt my family. And so yeah, they stayed pretty much away for the majority of my time. And was that okay? Was that tough? Yeah, that's super tough, to do my time that way. But I was in good company in prison. There was a lot of people like me doing time like me, you
Mhm.
know. So we do with what we have and make a life with it, when you're ready, to learn how to
Yeah.
be happy.
I'm glad you pulled through that and you had good people around you, good programs. I know more about what you went through in there, but for those who don't know, what eventually happened? Did you plea bargain? Did you go to a trial, or how did that work out?
So again, not knowing anything about who's fighting for me and who's on my side when it comes to the law and in the justice system, there was really, because I know what my issues were. It wasn't necessarily the fact that I was violent. It's the fact that I didn't have coping skills and I was addicted to drugs, and caught up in this emotional web of spiraling the drain. And so I wanted to have that being considered in my case, and the fact that I was a first time offender. But because I was joined up together with a career criminal, I had no play in that.
Mm.
So they wanted to put him away for a long time. And so they wanted to really solidify this case to put him away. And so I wasn't able to separate my case from him. And they were forcing us to take a plea agreement. And so with the plea deal, they were going to give me 15 years and 4 months. And if I decided to go to the box, they were going to give me 38 years. And
Mm.
so, you learn a lot about the justice system, but as you're going through prison and you learn about people's cases, and you realize that they really didn't have it like that to give me 38 years and run every crime concurrent, like that, like they were threatening. And so I very much probably could have pled my case for where I was in life and where I went wrong, and how I would like not to do 15 years and definitely not 38 years. But I ended up getting convicted of 15 years and 4 months on a plea agreement
Mm. And was that 85%, of course,
at
violent crime?
85%. Yeah.
Yeah, because this was 2009, right?
Yeah. So in 2010, I was sentenced.
Okay.
And so you could have told me a life sentence, because that's pretty much how I
Yeah.
felt in the moment,
Right.
that I was done. I was out of there.
Yeah, for someone who's never spent a day in jail. And you said you fought your case for about a year, right? Also.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, just a
Wow.
little over a year. So,
Mm.
you know, I then I had to go through the process of accepting that. And then it took a while, to accept that time. I was already years into my prison term, and when I finally got to that point where I was accepting of my situation.
Now that you're incarcerated, are you starting to feel like, hey, man, I really need to make a change in my life? Or, are you like us guys that go into jail and end up just getting right into the flow and getting involved with shit?
You know what? I'm never going to take anything away from what my brothers had to experience in the men's joint because of what I know goes on. Comparatively, the female prison experience is Camp Snoopy compared to what you guys go through, but it has its own politics and it has its own dramas. And one thing that does stay the same is the COs and CDC that controlling entity is all the same, no matter what institution. That industrial complex of prison is serious, and it's not there for you to thrive, and so it's not there for you to succeed, and it's definitely not dedicated to the R in CDCR and rehabilitating us. It's really, really up to us. But once I had hit the gate and once I came through onto the main yard, actually, once I hit receiving, because receiving is in the same prison in Chowchilla, I immediately was embraced by my Usos, because that's one thing we do have in common, whether we're in the men's joint or the female prison, is us Usos, we stick together. We're small, but we're strong, and so in that prison I felt that strength. COs were coming to my door going, hey, your Usos over there said to let you know that they know you're here. And so inside my heart I was like, they know I'm here? Really? And they're sending me love, and I'm getting noodle packs, and I'm getting a stinger, and on receiving yard, and anybody who knows that you don't get those things. I'm getting a radio with batteries, and and so everyone's seeing me, and I'm feeling like like pretty good about myself, that I'm thank God I'm Samoan in prison. So that, like, I felt like I was on the right side of things. So with that being said, I'm like, well, everyone's telling me how Usos do their time, like they have a heavy hand around this joint. So I'm on receiving yard, just mashing on people, just feeling good about who I, what I'm saying. And then go onto GP, and my Usos are waiting for me, open arms, TV, shoes, grays, everything, bag of food, and a cigarette. They're like, leave her alone, let her smoke this by herself. And I just felt so much love and unity from my sisters, from my Usos, and we never stopped being that close. And I thank God for my sisters. I thank God for my Usos. You met Ellie, yes, and she was able to express that as well. And there's just and those ties will never be broken, because it's just what we had to go through to get ourselves through day to day. At the end of the day, we had each other. Right. I didn't have my family, but guess what? They were my family. They were my sisters. Right, wrong, and different, no matter what, nobody could penetrate that.
Yeah. So 15 years at 85%. What did you ended up serving? 10 years?
At the end, I ended up serving 10 years and some change on that sentence. And in 2012 was when I really decided that I was going to serve the rest of my time doing things better. And so that's when life changed for me. Yeah. So the remainder of that time was spent on actually allowing myself to be bloom where I'm planted, accepting my situation for what it was. Right. And that, because I was watching lifers actually be happy, and I was like, I want that. So they paved the way. They showed me how to do my time. And I allowed them to speak into me this mantra of joy with every day. And so once I started like incorporating that into my everyday experience, I realized that I was happier. I was looking forward to every day. You know, I was sleeping better. I was making better choices. I was, you know, beginning to dream again about what my life was going to look like outside the walls, you
This
know.
was what, about 5 years into your sentence, I
No,
think it was?
actually, well,
4 years, I mean?
in 2012.
2020.
So, yeah.
Okay,
So I had
gotcha.
already been in prison for like, because prior to that, for the first 2 years, I was still popping pills. We brewed big hooch up in there. The Usos
Mhm.
made the best hooch ever. And so we were drinking every weekend for sure,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
doing what we do.
yeah, I feel that when I first went in, because I had a drinking problem when I went in. I don't drink no more, but when I went in, I was drinking all the time to kill the pain, to just not think about things, the
Right.
streets, or and everything like that. And it was pretty bad because you know us and alcohol. So I got in a lot of
Right.
fights. I got in a lot of trouble with my usos. So trying to walk that line, but I didn't know I had these underlying issues with myself. You might say it's just alcoholism, but at the same time, there was some other thing that was driving me. I wasn't wanting to feel or face my situation. I think that's what it was as well, and just running from my problems for a long time. I went all the way through prison, an idiot. I won't lie to you. I've told everybody that before. I ended up starting to change my life when I was home because I didn't know I didn't know anything was wrong with me. I was in denial. I was in denial. I just thought everybody else was weirdos, and I'm the one that knows what the fuck's happening around here. You know what I mean? And so, but it took me a good long while out here to get myself right. So it's good to hear you in there, and you said you got it straight after a while. I know a little bit about your story because I read your bio. You and your husband at the time before all this happened were involved heavily in the church, right? And
Yeah.
so while you were in prison, you ended up coming back to the church, right?
Right.
Okay.
2012 was actually the day, was a moment um when I just surrendered my life completely and just really asked God just to um I mean, what else did I have to lose at that point? My freedom's gone. My family's, gone. And so if you just basically saying, if Lord, if you can make anything out of this life that I have, if you can make anything out of this life that I have left, I'll give it to you. And the women that came into the prison to show love to us, I was so moved by this show of love from them. These are like the most straight-laced women who've never seen a day in jail, and who, they have lived experience of their own that didn't wind them up in jail, and they were so open and loving in this ministry. It's the Kairos ministry that came in, and I got invited to like a 4-day retreat, and in the month of February in 2012, and that was what changed my life. In the moment that I was able to see what really true unconditional love looked like. When I met these women, um, I hadn't been hugged by anyone, I mean, outside of like a true embracing that was totally, didn't care about what I did in the past, didn't care about my crimes, didn't care that I left my children and abandoned them for a lifestyle and prison. It didn't ask anything of me except to just accept it and receive it. And it was just one of the most um broken moments where you just totally allow yourself to be in that moment of just true brokenness, and understanding like how your life had brought you to this point, and not wanting to continue down that path anymore. And so in surrendering my life to God, to Jesus, and giving my life back, it's because I understood and I saw that I was never far away from him at all, even at my worst. that he was there guiding me through my mess by my own choice. Those are things that were happening by my own choice, because the path that he had, or the calling on my life, was present before my crimes and present before all the brokenness, and it was going to still be there once the healing process has been, once I was going through the healing process. It's just because what he starts, he's faithful to complete it. And unfortunately for me and for anyone that's been hurt by me, they had to endure those things so I can be right where I'm at today. And so I owe so much living amends to the people that have had to go through, my victims, my 7 victims. I honor them. I can't go around them. I have to tell them this because of my parole stipulations, but I would like to think that in some way they can feel that something's okay about their world, because now I'm living my life in such a way to honor them and what they had to go through in order for me to be right where I'm at today.
Right. I always say we're no longer making victims no more. We're saving people. And that's what it's about today, and you're saving people with your testimony. I'm glad to hear that you made it back to the church. I'm not involved in no church or anything, but I'm a firm believer of God, and I know God is in my life, and God works in my life 24/7. And like you said, God was always there faithfully to see you through this. And you went through it because you can handle it, because you have big things in front of you that you're going to do. But your testimony, your story is amazing. And just glad to hear you made it back to that. So eventually, you go through this prison system and you got a parole. Did you start preparing all these things? Well, you said you had a plan. So was Freedom Looks Good on Us part of your plan, or did you have something else in mind? What happened there when you came home?
So one of the things that happened in prison that broke open my whole outlook on life was, I was always a really good student as a youngster, as a kid. And so my dreams of higher education were like gone by the time I started having kids, because I was like, it's not about me anymore, it's about my children. So prison opened the door for me to walk into my pursuits for higher education. And because I knew that education was the key. And so once I got my degree, my AA in sociology in prison, I started to be on a path of like, okay, I know I'm going to get out. I know one thing, an AA is not enough to make me successful. I'm going to need a bachelor's. So I was already on that road of setting myself up to take everything from what I've accomplished in prison. I ended up going to one of those custody to community treatment or re-entry programs.
Okay.
And so where I did the last 6 months of my term on an ankle monitor in an in custody program in Santa Fe Springs, which was huge. That was one of the best programs out there to get long-termers like myself and violent offenders a chance to reintegrate back into society in a smooth transition. Because let's face it, we're in there, we're programming, and we've lost the ability to like gain our footing, and so many of us hit that gate and we're not ready. Our legs are wobbly, we don't feel steady on our feet once we hit. But this program provided that for me. They were able to handhold me, take me to the DMV, take me to Social Security, help me get my birth certificate. So all of this stuff, and also connect me with a program called Project Rebound out of Cal State University, Fullerton. And so that I could talk to them about my desire to continue my education. And so they were actually helping me decide what this was going to look like for me once I hit the gate on January 2020. And so I used that 6 months in that program to really take advantage of this. They even approved me to go on campus, you know, to go meet these people. So I had a big old fat ankle monitor. They were like, okay, you're a big girl, you have this time, you're going to take this bus, you're going to go down this train, you're going to go. So I went all of that just like scared, you know, but I did it afraid anyway, no matter what. And because I knew it was going to be beneficial for me. And when I got to Project Rebound's office on Cal State Fullerton's campus, everyone there were all formerly incarcerated. They were all system impacted, justice involved individuals. And I looked at them and I saw myself and I said, I can do this.
That's right.
So, you know, and I gained so much of my identity today because of my educational pursuits, because I don't need to be out in the world and start my introduction of myself. Hey, I'm a formerly incarcerated, convicted felon who's done 7 robberies. Now I can say, when they say, hey, who are you? I say, well, I'm Lisa Nomura. I'm a 4th-year student at Cal State University Fullerton, majoring in human services with the goals of working in the nonprofit sector. And maybe one day getting my master's and maybe my doctorate, who knows, you know, and that's me, you know. And if you want to know what got me to that point, you can ask me. Yeah. And I may or may not tell you, you know, because it's not that it doesn't matter. It's just that I know where I'm at today and I know where I'm going.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting what you're saying there. And I like that a lot. And that just goes to show everyone that's listening out there that, you know, you're not your circumstances, you're not your past, you know, you can rewrite your story at any moment, at any age, you know what I mean? And it doesn't this story that you're involved in now doesn't have to be the end. You know,
it makes me feel good to hear you say that, because that's everything that I like to encourage in our people, especially our justice involved community, in our Samoan community. Because, you know, I know Upu and Belle and Vika and them, because I do work with the FO, you know, and volunteer with them. Nice. Because I believe in that, and I have so much pride in their journeys and what they've had to, you know, they're like 1,000 years of prison time within that group alone. What does that say? And so to hear brothers like yourself say, okay, I think education is going to be beneficial. So like Tino Lua Falamana, he enrolled into college. Nice. You know, nice. Bell, at his age, after doing all this time, he's enrolled in college. You know, so I'm always going to be that person that's a proponent for pursuing higher education. You know why? Because the reentry population is in demand. We have never been in more demand than right now in our society, because what society used to do in the past, the second they heard that, oh, that person's formerly incarcerated, they've done X amount of years in prison, here goes our opportunities. Whoop. Right. It narrows like just like that. The second they know that about this. Today, in the society that we live in, what we know today about the reentry population or the justice involved population, we are in demand because they understand one thing, is our lived experience is what makes us relatable to a society that is going to hell in a handbasket in so many areas that haven't worked. So what's going to change the narrative for this? It's accepting that we came out of prison and we have this lived experience, but we made the best use of our time in like growing and how we think about things, educating ourselves, getting our bodies healthy, you know, and having the luxury of sitting down that nobody else in our lives prior to have the luxury of. Let's face it, we came home from prison and we saw a bunch of our people that we know, and what they were all in the same mess that they were when we left them, because they didn't have the luxury we have. So right. Why not use it to the best of our communities and taking what we know today and bettering society with it? That's right. Because that's the expectation now on us.
Yeah, that's right. I like it. I like it a lot. But I can't wait till all of you start coming this way, you know.
Yeah, I always told Ellie, I said, I have no problem. You came down here, I have no problem coming out
That's
there.
right.
Just because this message has to go forth, because we want to be encouragers of of the reentry population, because we have so much to offer.
Yeah.
You know, to change the trajectory of how society is going,
I,
especially within our Samoan community.
right, right. I used to always have a problem. Before I got out, they made me do drug program. I don't know why, maybe because of my alcohol problem. I never really did drugs. I smoked weed, but I really drank alcohol all the time. So they sent me to this drug program. And I remember talking to this counselor. I really liked him. He seemed like he really cared about us and what he was doing. But I asked him, have you ever done drugs before? And he told me he did. And I said, what have you done? And he said, meth. And I asked him more questions. And you know us, we know a bullshitter. We know a liar. You know what I mean? We can see it. And I waited a couple days and I came back to him and I said, hey, man, I know you never did drugs before. And he he laughed and admitted it right away and said, you're right, Ron. I didn't, you know, and I said, so you're just here for what? And he said, well, I went to school. I got this degree to become a counselor. I want to help. And and I told him straight up, it's really messed up. I like you as a person. I could tell you care and everything, but it's really messed up. You really can't tell none of these folks nothing. You don't have nothing relatable to them. You know, these guys have been shooting things in their arms. You know what I mean? They've been doing this for years, and you're telling me you just learned about it, and you're over here lying to everybody, saying that you know you did drugs, trying to relate to us. It's not going to work. It really ain't. And a lot of people that are ex-convicts, we see that we don't want to really listen to no one. Period. Anyways, so and I remember Cobra said it, everybody's doing it except us. But when we saw someone that looked like us, then we were able to do it, you know. And that's like seeing someone in school, someone that looks like us, a familiar face, or someone that has been through the same situations as us. That's what I related to. So I understand what you're talking about. I didn't think about it, but man, it is definitely more in need now for us to be involved with this because of everybody that's coming home.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I love the work that you're doing. I read a little bit. I did some research on you. You're the one that actually put that thing together out down south, right?
Yeah. I
With
put
the
together it's the first of its kind. Um, and I'm sorry I didn't elaborate more on the Freedom Looks Good on this page, but the Freedom Fest was was an idea that I had because I started to notice in both the male and female population that the services are not streamlined to the formerly incarcerated. You know, we have to go and search and dig and ask questions and rely on our POs that have an already extensive caseload of parolees to chase around. And so that was one of the things, is I wanted to bring everyone into one room and offer these services to women, parolees, past, present, future, whatever. If you needed help in any area, assistance in trying to stabilize your life, I wanted you to be able to come to a one-stop shop where you would be able to receive that that support. And no matter what, in the midst of the COVID pandemic, I found a venue, I found a city that would approve it and to get us in there with the multiple hundred people in one area. And I worked together with the parole agent, Jennifer Swoboda, who believed in my vision for this. And so the Freedom Fest was 8 months of work in trying to create and foster relationships with all local service organizations all up and down the state, and asking them to basically put your money where your mouth is, since you're saying you're about this mission statement, and uproot yourselves and bring yourselves to where the need is. So with the good thing about doing the groups with the parole female population is I was able to like bring women from every county to this event and let them know that it's not just about this one event. It's about continuing a relationship where I can continue to have Freedom Fest every year and having it to grow and making it to where these services are available as an accountability, not just on a Freedom Fest day, but every day.
Mhm.
So that we don't have to go searching for, putting ourselves at risk of going back to prison because we're homeless, because that's one of the things that I'm always, with the women that I deal with is, if you have those issues, contact me. And the way that I developed for them to be able to contact me is by starting the page Freedom Looks Good on Us on as a group page on Facebook. And it's a community. It was really a fluke, actually. I opened it as a way for me to like show my goofy 1 year of freedom. First, like, oh, I'm at the beach, and oh, I'm at this restaurant, and oh, I'm seeing this family member for the first time. But people started jumping on it and seeing that it was a place for community. And then I saw that, and I said, oh, okay, I see what you're doing, God. So I started to formulate a platform of Freedom Looks Good on Us to just say, hey, freedom is not all it's cracked up to be. As a matter of fact, it's downright hard, but our best day in prison is nothing compared to, our worst day of the free world is nothing compared to our best day in prison. Let's face it. I'd rather take free world problems any day today.
Right. Right. And it's very important for these things to happen, because I know myself, when I got out, I had to go get my own driver's license and all that. And I went in as a youngster. So, and I didn't have nobody to talk to about who goes through what and how to deal with this incarceration and post incarceration, all this stuff.
Right.
I didn't, and I told this story before. I ended up sitting in my closet with a gun in my mouth, and good thing I was too scary to really do it myself as well. So, but I think a lot of us end up, I have 2 friends that committed suicide since they came home. And a lot of us don't have these groups or even just support in that way, which direction to go now that we're home after 15, 20 years. We don't have it. And especially if we haven't had contact with our family members in so long, like you said, homeless, all kinds of stuff. So I'm really, really glad to see people like you doing this. We need more people like you doing this. Is there any more things that you're putting up eventually that are going to come out up north?
The intention of the Freedom Fest is to also challenge different counties to mirror this type of mindset in the streamlining of services to the reentry population. So definitely moving the Freedom Fest from county to county is really at the heart of where I want to move towards. Now, again, I'm still on active parole. So it's always,
Gotcha.
so it's a testament to say it doesn't matter. You can make a change. So I would rather see more people think like me and begin to like take hold. And that's what, pages like Freedom Looks Good on Us can do, is I'm able to challenge individuals to say, if I can do it, you can do it. And whatever I can do to get that there, let's do it. And then I'll come out there and be like, whoo, look at what you guys did. And so like for myself right now, I actually am getting, people are looking at me, nonprofits are seeing me and wanting to, offer me positions in the nonprofit sector, waiting for me to graduate. And I'm just looking forward to what that is and what that's going to look like. And, I'm really just kind of, I'm taking this year after I graduate in May to really kind of see what direction my life's going to go. And I'm currently taking on another position as an instructor with Goodwill Industries. And so that works together to provide job readiness classes for the reentry population. So going in as an instructor is going to be great. And, that's going to help me a lot in reaching my goals and starting maybe my own nonprofit one day.
Nice. Man,
We'll
congrats on everything.
We'll see.
I really appreciate you. Oh man,
Likewise, likewise.
it's such a breath of fresh air. It is really, and because it's so long we needed this talk. There's so much I can go over with you. There is so much we didn't get to dig into, but I do want to ask you this before we do part. For you, your situation was a lot different from a lot of us. I mean, you really had this normal life and everything before your life took a turn. Okay. So when someone is like, say, like a normal person who's just going to work every day, has the family, involved in church, whatever, the community, and they are faced with things that they're not usually used to dealing with, what would you suggest to them and how to deal with it, especially the women out there, who have to deal with a lot of these things, these traumas and everything? What would you suggest to them, on going the opposite way of what you did? What kind of advice would you give them?
If I was to speak to any woman that's found themselves in a situation where they have to make decisions on whether to go right or left, I would just encourage that person or that woman to take a second, and not make any decisions at all. And that was the thing, is I made decisions so quickly that I did not, and they were all fueled with emotion. And decisions based on emotion never end well. They just never end well. And if you just I just encourage women so much to build their internal resolve, to build a solid core of understanding exactly what it is that you would need in situations like that. If you have an opportunity to grow in that situation, as opposed to like bottom out and spiral the drain like I did, take it. Take a second to step back and look at yourself, and decide, make the choices that are healthy and not the ones that are hurtful. Because we all know what it looks like when we start to make those decisions. We all know what it looks like when we're on a downward spiral. And if we can just take a second and take a step back out of our circumstance, we're always going to look back and see that was that was the best thing you could have done for yourself in the moment.
Beautiful. I love it. Great advice. I would love to get on again with you, and talk more deeper about things and these programs eventually. I really enjoyed this conversation with you.
Same
It was
here.
really good. This was very enlightening. I can't wait to see the moves you're making in the future. That's why I want to have you back on, man. All right. Well, I love
Okay.
it. Love you, sis.
Love you too.
Thank you again.
Stay on Freedom Looks Good on this.
That's right. So
Thanks,
y'all
bro.
know what it is. Stay the fuck out of trouble. Thank
Bye,
you.
bro.